So, Trigger Mike, do you have on record an example of a stepdaddy being with the kids and enjoying his life the
What's
most?
mosquito, girl? That thing be biting me all night long.
Enjoy. What do you mean the most?
Juices up. What you doing?
I'm saying you got on ready samples of a stepdad position not being a good thing. Do you have on
Oh,
ready?
my father-in-law. My father-in-law is an excellent example.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like sometimes we be in that negative feedback loop so hard that I know you want to be the gender war general and stuff, but
It's not even that, bro. It's not even that because I had to say my father-in-law, he's 60 something years old. What I'm saying is that in modern times, we have women doing so many dishonorable things. Like you have to understand that I still come from a place where because a man did this for you, like there are women that behave in like they are indebted to these men. And they literally at the wedding. I had one, damn, she's not a cousin, she's like a play cousin in the UK that her husband died. Like she just had twins.
mhm.
3 weeks later, her husband died. And
Hmm.
at the wedding, so the whole community was like, nah, redeem this lady. That she don't deserve this. She just had two twin boys. So the guy that married her 2 years later, at the wedding, this woman got on her knees. Like you would like if I could find the video, you will be crying. Thank you for coming. I will forever submit to you. I will forever serve. This lady got on her knees and thanked that man for redeeming her and her children. Women are honorable like that no more.
I think this woman out here is maybe not
Not
in
a
mass based off the internet, but the loudest people be the like it's a very very loud minority out here. Y'all really telling me that the majority of the women acting like this?
majority.
Some of them you don't even know.
Majority.
I don't know, man.
Don't even
It's
know.
it's the blind
What?
leading the blind. You know, you like my wife, she's a non-believer, and then she goes out because she's married and she has a new group of friends that are married. She'll be like, Mike, I don't know if it's all women. I feel like it's a very small majority. And then she'll go in her own circle of like friends she went to college with and was like, I was just talking to such and such. And you were right. The stuff that's on their mind and what they expect from men, it's a majority of women. The well is poisoned. I mean, I think the marital rates actually dictate what's going on the most.
I can see this. I usually only focus on positive examples and things I actually want to see. So it's I could be like a cognitive dissonance bias could be occurring where I'm just ignoring a whole lot of ratchet wild behavior because it's
Mm.
like I see it and I just don't see it no more because I'm looking past it. So I give you that could possibly be happening. But could you admit that possibly it ain't that bad and it's just the internet overhyping it?
Nope, it's that bad. Well,
And it's so funny. And the reason why I mentioned my story early, because remember I told you about that CEO. He was telling me because he and I had okay. So this is brought up a long time ago. And he was saying that he had a friend who, like I mentioned earlier, because that was his story, had a friend who had two kids. His daughter never checks up on him. He said, but the stepdaughter always checks up on him. And I was trying to tell him, well, maybe that's the personality, because some women are just more like they're gonna check up on you. So it may just be that the daughter's personality is she just goes without calling people. That's just her personality. Whereas the other one's more like nurturing and all
Mm-hmm.
that kind of stuff. But his point was the stepchild was the person who, well, that was my point.
yeah, unfortunately though, Shan, I think the opposite is more often true. There are dudes that are literally complaining like after all I did for these goddamn kids, they do not call me. I was in the hospital. They didn't send a note, a letter. I literally hear that
I've
story
never
more.
heard that. I've
I
never
don't want to
heard
like
a
really
story that
debate
way.
it because there's nothing, but I'm saying that I think we live in an entire culture that is selfish.
Yeah, so this day I do think that, but every person and I don't want to put my family business. Only one stepdad I know in my family. Because the rest of them, the kids are all theirs. There's one stepdad I know in my family. I mean, he's older because he's deceased, but he's of older generation. The person in my family, he never had a kid by her,
Mm.
but she came with a kid, which we didn't even know until the funeral. Isn't that crazy? Didn't even know that was, even his grandkids didn't even know it. That's crazy. Because people kept that a secret back in the day. But anyhow, but it was never, he never treated her any different because that's how we never knew. You know, all these years, we never knew that that wasn't his real kid. That it was just he met her when the baby was 1, and they just lived that way. And the kids never knew any different. He never treated them any different. It was just, and she's gonna forever be in my cousin, whatever ever be his child. She don't even want to know. That's her dad.
That's kind of how Waka is too, right? Like Waka Flocka with that girl. So Trick Mike, let me ask you this: if you was to gauge, like out of one through or a percentage wise, how many black women do you think fall in love with men and don't worry about none of this YouTube stuff and actually just love the man they with?
I don't know. I'd say they don't listen to YouTube stuff and fall in love.
Live their lives
Women,
based off
can I
YouTube.
answer that question?
Oh, I see. Oh, you know what? I'd say half.
I think most women, even on YouTube, have fallen in love with somebody that done pissed them off and they did them dirty.
Yeah.
So it's not the love. They're giving out love.
They're just here rejecting.
No, I'm saying like, you know, so they might like, oh, you're not 6 feet tall, or you're not, you know, all those messages that they say.
Okay,
you know, like,
you know what?
it translates over to somebody that really.
I'm gonna amend that. It's definitely 75%, because that's actually the tendency of women. The problem is that we're asking them what they want. It is not what is represented out in the real world, because it's natural, because women don't do the choosing. That if you ask them what they want, they think it's a buffet. Well, shit, if I get to tell you,
if you ask them, it's an ideal situation. They're not gonna. But if a dude shows up and he's
this is actually what I mean by that. So I go out when we went out. I go out sometimes. I people watch. So some groups where, you know, I hear women talk in social circles, and then we'll get together and they'll be like, "This is your baby's father." All that shit you were talking. This is the dude that you popped the baby out for. So line all these women up to be talking all this shit on YouTube and ask them to bring their baby daddy outside, and you will see exactly what they think they qualify for.
Most people who are in a relationship are not with their ideal, and they in love, and it don't be like you be like, oh, y'all match. You know what I'm saying? It don't be that fairy tale guy, and you look at them like they go good together, like they match each other. And like Mike said, I think if you ask somebody, they're gonna put down all the bells and whistles because it's not a reality yet. But if they run into somebody who doesn't fit that and they like the guy, they're gonna go with the guy. They just are.
Speaking of which,
so Trigger Mike, for people that's watching us entering or re-entering the dating market, how bad do you think this stuff discourages them from really trying?
Oh, I think it's different for the men and the women. I think the men are going to feel more hopeless. But I don't know. It might be equal. I'll take that back. I think it's very. In fact, no, I take that back. It's really the men. I think a lot of the women stay delusional even after you talked about. Like, men be really talking some good sense here, and I think the women literally just their receptors are burnt. They don't hear anything that we're saying because. And what really happened is that I think men have no choice but to listen. When you get around the other groups of men that are really trying to tell you something, you'll notice that they'll be more silent than combative because they're just going to, silently internalize what you're saying and weigh it against their own life and outcomes. But it's really disheartening to hear some of the stuff the women have to say when they're projecting their bad experiences with some men onto all men on these platforms. Every time I hear a black woman generalize on these platforms, they obliterate black men like we are the scum of the earth. That's why I told you I don't think we understand, or Shan even understands how many black women actually hate us. They hate our guts. So that black men hearing that, so I didn't think that MGTOW thing was a real thing. I didn't think Passport Brothers would be a real thing or something that would blossom into men actually going to live in Thailand. I was like, what? You from America? Ain't no way you about to go live in Thailand. But it has, because as you watch this, you're going to continue to lose faith in your ability to find a wife. Whenever we talk about marriage and children, for some reason, we always associate it with a woman's desire. As a man ages, he desires for these same things too. I used to see all my OGs walking around with their kids like, damn, if I don't get started, I ain't gonna have none of my own. Like you said, so I started becoming serious about that, and I started to concern myself with how do I find a woman that will create this with me and not fuck it up. And I don't think men have that faith anymore.
I don't know if I agree with that, but I also think that the women are also hopeless.